So, starting Epistle 29. Ishus Chayla Teres Baila Cholu Isa Begemara Perek Daled de Megillah de Ishtamish Besaga Cholaf Cholu Zeo HaMishtamish B'mishu Shein Halachis Kisra Shal Torah Cholu. So, Kabbalistically speaking, the woman mentioned in this verse, that the woman of valor is the crown of her husband. Of course, it means what it means, simply speaking, just like another verse in the Torah that says to seek to live life with the woman that you love, which of course is good advice, simply speaking. But also, Kabbalistically, the woman is a reference to Torah. And zooming in even more specifically, according to Kabbalah, the woman is the oral Torah, and the written Torah is the husband. So it says in the Gemara, as a comment on the teaching of our sages, that he who makes use of the crown passes away from this world, right? We said that a woman of valor is the crown of her husband. In other words, according to the Kabbalistic explanation, a woman, the oral Torah, is the crown of the husband, the written Torah. So it says, someone who makes use of the crown, chalaf, he passes away from this world. And our sages say that this applies to one who makes use of one who studies halachis, which are the crown of Torah. The Gemara in Megillah goes on to say that it was taught in the academy of Eliyahu that whoever studies halachis is assured of a share in Olam Haba, the world to come. Halacha means going, or the way, the path to go on. And that is the word for Jewish law, the Torah law, which is Hashem's will. Hashem's will and wisdom is contained in the Torah. What Hashem wants of us, He lets us know by giving us the Torah. In the Torah we have Hashem's commandments that are for us to do, to connect on a deeper level to Hashem and to reveal Hashem more in this world, which of course in general is what Hashem wants. So we need to understand Lama Nikru Ha'alachis B'Shem Taga V'Chisra Shal Torah. How come these laws, the Torah laws, halacha, is called the crown of Torah? V'gam, and also Lama Hashem Ha'alachis Dafka Muftach Leichulu V'Leishar Divrei Torah. How come specifically someone who studies halacha is assured of a share in the world to come, and not other Torah? How come we don't say that someone who studies the scriptures, or someone who studies the midrash, or someone who studies Tanya, like us over here studying the Tanya? We also need to understand the teaching of our sages. And he quotes the source over here for that teaching. What's the teaching? So a Jewish person is obligated to study Torah every single day, and not just every single day, but actually it says day and night. In other words, in every waking moment, a Jewish person, specifically a Jewish male, needs to be primarily occupied with the study of Torah. And however, when it comes down to it, when we learn about what is the minimum measure of Torah study that we need to do, we say that a person can learn a single chapter in the morning and a single chapter in the evening, and that is considered for a person to have fulfilled their obligation. I see some questions in the comments. Why is it specifically Jewish men who are primarily obligated to make? Why is it specifically Jewish men, incumbent upon Jewish men, that Torah study should be their primary occupation in every waking moment? And I'm not going to answer that. Well, the truth is I will, but then I think I'll need to make a policy for myself during these live videos to not answer every single question. But in very short, the answer to that question is because Jewish women are exempt from the mitzvos that have a time that are time bound. In other words, that have a relevance to the framework of time that is related specifically to men, and women are exempt from that. I don't know if that satisfies you. That's a pretty quick way to answer, and it's not really. The truth is, it's not really an answer. Like, it wouldn't satisfy me if I knew nothing about that and then that's all that I heard. But of course, like most of the Torah, it's not. I try to present it in a bite-sized way, but there's so much to learn and to explore. Yeah, but if you type up a question properly and send it in, then I can come back to you with a better typed out answer, or I can most likely give you some source material for you to look at. But anyways, so let's continue doing the Tanya. So how come? So it's interesting. We need to understand how come only one chapter in the morning, one chapter in the evening is good enough to satisfy this obligation of Torah study, and how come specifically a chapter of Jewish law? However, it's well known that Rabbi Yitzchak Luria of blessed memory stated that the soul of every Jew needs to be reincarnated many times until he will fulfill all 613 commandments of the Torah with all of his faculties, thought, speech, and action. Those are referred to Kabbalistically as the soul garments with which one performs the commandments. Lahashlim levushay nafshay ulasaknam shelo yehi levusha dechasra chulu. This is in order to complete the garments of his soul and to correct them so that no garment will be incomplete. Levad mitzvahs hatluyes b'melech shu meitzi kol Yisrael ki hi klalus kulam chulu. Accepted are the commandments incumbent upon only upon a king, because he discharges the obligation of all of Israel as he is a corporate collective of all of them. So when we talk about every soul needing to do every single mitzvah, all 613, we are excluding the mitzvahs. There are some mitzvahs that are only incumbent upon the king, and the Jewish monarch is halachically the head of the people. In other words, he encompasses all the people, and by him fulfilling those certain mitzvahs that are incumbent upon a king, all of the Jewish people, all of their obligation of this mitzvah is fulfilled through him. How come every Jewish soul needs to be reincarnated until they can have done all 613 mitzvahs, and until they actually do? It's so that all 613 aspects and powers of one soul can be clothed by the mitzvahs. And the mitzvahs are the garments. Achas mehina loina dara. So that one of them, not one of these 613 aspects should be lacking, should be missing. So an explanation for the indispensability of these garments is given in the Zohar, and it can be understood by every thinking person. Of course, these things are not simple, but the way to learn them is by being here, or by opening it up yourself and looking at it, studying. There are many videos on all parts of Torah at this point. Baruch Hashem. So what is the explanation? Because in order to For the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama in man are created entities and hence inherently limited, and it's impossible for any created being to attain any apprehension of the blessed Creator and Former of all, who is infinite. Moreover, even after God has radiated a glimmer of His blessed light and has caused an emanation in the form of an evolution of numerous descending degrees, level by level, by way of intense contractions and numerous immense garments that obscure godliness. This is known to people who are familiar in esoteric wisdom in Kabbalah, that Hashem, so to speak, limits Himself so that we can receive any revelation of godliness and still yet maintain independent identity. And in the Idra Rabbah, which is another part of the Zohar, these contracted degrees of divine illumination are referred to as hairs, because the life force present in hair is so tenuous that it doesn't even convey sensation. The subtle glimmers of divine energy that filter through the above described contractions are referred to metaphorically as hairs. As it's written in the book of Daniel, and the hair of his head is like white wool, from which we see that certain degrees of spiritual downflow are referred to by the term hair. Nevertheless, still the soul would not be capable of receiving God's divine light. For the light is good and sweet, so intensely so that no created being can receive it without expiring. It's written to behold the pleasantness, the noyam of Hashem. The term noyam denotes pleasantness, agreeableness, and sweetness, and an infinitely intense delight. As it is written, then you will delight yourself in God, and He will sate your soul with a pleasurable thirst. So I'm trying to understand what we're saying here, but often just by moving forward, we come to understand it. So right, this whole thing's explained in the Zohar, that ultimately the energy of God is too powerful for us to experience without expiring, right? For us to experience and still remain in a body. So Hashem contracts His light, and we said it's like hair. But nevertheless, even after this, the light is so intensely good and sweet that there has to be something else. There has to be something else that allows us to receive it. And I think where we're going to go with this is that's what we're doing by doing the mitzvahs. We are garbing our soul in a, so to speak, protective garment of clothes that allows us to receive godly light. Like sunglasses can allow you to be outside even if the sun is very powerful. It is not in the soul's power to absorb the pleasantness and agreeableness of the above pleasurable thirst without leaving its husk, in other words, its limitation, and become wholly nullified, just like a candle flame becomes totally nullified inside of a torch, right? This little flame will now suddenly be included in this much bigger fire. Were it not that from this very light there will evolve and issue forth a minute radiation by way of an evolution level after level with multitudinous contractions. In other words, Hashem is really, really contracting. It's infinity giving itself finitude, because since God is truly infinite, you can't say that God must always surpass all levels of finitude, because that would be limiting to infinity, and God has no limitations. God, being unlimited, can be limited. עד שיברא ממנו לבוש אחד נברא מעין מהוס ער זה להלבש הנפש רוח ונשמה, ודרך לבוש זה שהוא מעין ער זה תוכל להיכנס מזיו ער זה ולהשיגו ולא יסבטל ממציאותו. וכמשל הרע בשמש דרך השש זכה ומאירה וכולו. כמו שכתוב ויבא משה בשיח ענן ויעל כולו, שנסלבש בענן ועולה וראה דרך הענן וכולו. So level after level, Hashem contracts until a single garment is created of this contracted light, a creation similar to the nature of this light with which to garb the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, the soul levels, the soul powers that are within reach. By way of this garment, which is akin to this light, the soul can derive enjoyment from the ray of this light and apprehend it without becoming totally nullified out of existence. It can still remain within the body. This is analogous to someone looking at the sun through a fine and lucid speculum. Thus it is written, and Moses entered the midst of the cloud, and he ascended the mountain. That is, he vested himself in the cloud and ascended and saw by way of the cloud. In other words, the cloud served as a garment by which Moses was able to receive the revelations at Sinai. This is explained in the Zohar, volume 2, page 210 and 229.